Working on a 2012 Ram 1500 with the 5.7 Hemi Sport. So issue is the high beams originally, there's a few issues with this truck, but the high beams on this truck did not work. It wasn't a front end collision. I got it at a auction in Boise, Idaho. The high beams didn't work. We believe the blinkers didn't work either. We know for sure the high beams didn't work. So I hooked up the Altel to it, looked at the wiring diagram. Well, the connectors on the left, or drivers, and the passenger headlights, they were swapped. Meaning, like inside of this, there's your running lights and your regular lights. Well, they had the connectors swapped. You can't, I mean, you have to look at the different colors of the wires and the connector. They swapped them. They didn't even put the routing of the wires back correctly. So we fixed the lights so the low and the high beams work and the blinkers work. Then we took a look at the horn wouldn't blow. So when I hit the horn, it won't work. Well, we hooked up the scan tool with the Autel, and I'll show you that the horn works here in 1 minute. All right, so I did a full system scan. There's 2 faults in the airbag, 1 in the instrument cluster. But if I go to the central gateway module, then I go to active tests, and then I go to horn. I don't want no live data. I'm going to toggle it. You can hear the horn. So when I troubleshot that, I know the fuses were good, the relay and the printed circuit board's good. But I also had, when I go back to all my codes, if I go to the mechanical instrument cluster, which is that guy there, the instrument cluster, and I go to read codes, I had a U1109 active, lost communication with LIN steering wheel controls. Well, if you look in the wiring diagram for this, this uses LIN bus. So, you know, CAN bus, CAN high, CAN low. LIN bus is a slower network for horns and, you know, instrument cluster, stuff like that, and mirrors and, you know, door locks perhaps. But it lost communication. The instrument cluster lost communication with the steering wheel itself. Well, that tells me, and I looked up the wiring diagram, that the clock spring is bad because the LIN bus goes through the clock spring. So we have a clock spring issue, I believe. That's why the horn's not working when you push it. And we have a LIN bus code. So we got to get a new clock spring. Call the parts store. They're on back order right now. So we'll have to address that and find another source. The other issue is we always have the airbag light on in the instrument cluster. So I go back to the instrument cluster and I pull up, read codes. So I got a B001013 and a B001113. Passenger frontal squib 1 and passenger frontal squib 2 control circuit open. Squib is what sets the explosion off. There's 2 squibs behind this in an airbag. So if you go to the live data, let me pull that up. Sorry about the glare from the light. Once it pulls up. So I want passenger and driver. All airbag systems I've seen are like usually 2.2, 2.3, 2.8 ohms of resistance. Driver 1 and driver 2 are 2.8 ohms. Passenger 1 and passenger 2 are 10 ohms. Well, 10 ohms in this case is considered an open circuit. It needs to be 2.8, you know, plus or minus, you know, and half an ohm or whatever the tolerance is per the service data. But passenger says it's 10 ohms. So now what we're going to do is pull the glove box apart. The airbag's right behind the glove box. We'll pull that apart and see if it's not plugged in, if it's an open circuit, or who knows what's going on. Because this vehicle was in a front end collision. So we got to see what's going on with that. So I have this kit from AES Wave. So if I wanted to, I could go in there and these little connectors here for my airbag modules. These are different resistors. There's a resistor here. I got a little pack of resistors there. for different, you know, 2.8, 3.2, whatever it is, right? I can use these in series to simulate the airbag circuit, because when you're checking this, you want to be very careful you don't set the airbag off. So I pulled up the wiring diagram. The center box here is the airbag control module. So if I scroll over, module ORC, occupant restraint controller, you go back over because we're looking for the passenger squib 1 and 2, which is right there, passenger squib 1, passenger squib 1. So you're both your lines, passenger squib 2, both your lines. This is your squib 1 and squib 2. So what we could do is check the resistance. This is supposed to have 2.8 ohms going back to the module, 2.8 ohms going back to the module. We could simulate 2.8 ohms. We can check the resistance across these. However, you do got to be careful. Use a DMM, digital multimeter. Tells you in the service manual that, you know, produces very low amperage, because when you check resistance, it does produce, you know, a little bit of voltage and amperage. You don't want to set these off. But we want to get to these connectors to check that. So next we got to remove the glove box. So to remove the glove box, we're going to slide this down. So all you do is release some tabs on the side, you pull it down, slide it out. Then this top one, you open that up, and then you got to just pull this out. There's just plastic tabs. I'll go ahead and do that. So then I just pulled this out. So when you pull this part out, there's supposed to be up here a light that goes in there. Well, it's missing. So if you look, this connector right here, they didn't even plug that back in. The other end of it, the male end of it for the light's missing. But now we're looking in here. Your airbag should be right in here, right? Well, guess what's right here? Your 2 airbag connectors. This isn't, there's black electrical tape. That's not from the factory. That's from somebody messing around with this, taping them up. If you look at these wire colors here, these 2 wire colors and these 2, they match up to that diagram perfectly for the colors, which are these wires here and these wires here. Well, if you look, these are airbag connectors. They taped them up with electrical tape. That airbag's not even in here. That's why it's reading 10 ohms. That's an open circuit. There's no airbag even in here. And that's why we're getting the airbag code in 10 ohms resistance, and we should have 2.8 ohms. Because there's no airbag even in here. They just taped it up. So this thing got in a front end collision. I'm sure the airbag went off. They never replaced the airbag. They just taped the damn things up, which is completely wrong. So now if you were to get an accident, whoever's sitting in the passenger seat, the airbag would not go off. I don't know how they can get away with that. Selling a vehicle like this, I mean, that's got to be illegal. A major safety issue, because there is no physical airbag in this vehicle, and it's taped up. That is not from the factory. I'm going to untape it to show you what these connectors look like. So I just untaped one of them. Absolutely airbag connectors. This is where you'd plug that part in from the kit I had from ASWay to simulate, you know, the airbag. But, well, there's no point, because there's no damn airbag in this vehicle, because whoever worked on it didn't put it back together correctly. So we need to find an airbag. We need to find out who worked on this, because there's got to be a major safety issue not having an airbag in here. But once we get the airbags in there, we'll plug them in, redo our diagnostics, put the new clock spring in the steering wheel, and this vehicle will be good to go. So obviously the auction guy, whoever sold the vehicle, he didn't fix this, and he probably didn't even know about it. Whoever repaired this vehicle was in an accident. Whatever body shop did the work obviously caused an issue and they didn't repair it. So they're the ones that need to be held responsible, whoever worked on it. But you can see there's a screw here. If you look underneath, there's a screw there. But if you actually look at the back of this tab right there is broken. So they've been in here, well, obviously, because they taped it up. So we got to figure that out, get the airbags, and then rerun diagnostics, and that'll be it for this truck. I know I keep saying I'm done, but I wanted to add one more thing. So whoever worked on this vehicle, if they filed an insurance claim, and obviously they paid for a service and they defrauded the insurance company because they didn't put the new airbag in, and they're lying to the company, the customer, I mean, that's very illegal. They're defrauding the customer, they're defrauding the insurance company. There's obviously some illegal actions that are being taken place. Whoever worked on this vehicle, not putting an airbag in, because if we were driving now and I'm sitting here and somebody else is driving it, they're in the driver's seat, their airbag goes off, mine doesn't, because it's not even physically here. Again, it boils down to lazy, incompetent people out there not taking their time and paying attention to detail.